Hello, everyone. We are going live on my vision show with Jason Kirk all the way from the United Kingdom. Who said you couldn't travel international during the COVID? We're going to make it happen right here on my vision show. Jason, so thank you so much for being with us today. And before I let you have it, just a couple things about Jason. First thing I want to make crystal clear is Jason obviously has a very successful empire. He volunteered to do this so he can really reach out to his fans and just share a little bit from his knowledge and expertise. I think this is a really valuable opportunity we should all take advantage of. The Kirk family has been in optics for 100 years. Jason himself started in optics in 1992, although you wouldn't be able to tell. He was only about, I don't know, maybe 5 when he started, right? The Kirk brand actually started way back in 92, and it was sold in 2012. He is no longer associated with the Kirk Originals Company. So Kirk and Kirk was actually launched in 2015 and now sells to over 400 independent stores in 40 countries. Super exciting to understand that Jason has this really kind of universal understanding of how the independent model is applied across all of these different countries. And I'm sure he'll touch on how, that kind of varies and we can all learn from each other, which is just absolutely a great opportunity. Currently, he has 2 optical factories in the United Kingdom, and he owned his own 3 independent retail stores in London. So I can't think of anybody more equipped to talk about a topic right now that we hear over 100 times a day on Facebook and social media. How do I succeed as an independent optical store? Well, Jason is here to crack the code. Thank you so much, Jason.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me along, Charlene. Brilliant. My Vision Show, really enjoying it. And it's a great opportunity to meet people. I had a great time last night, particularly chatting with a whole bunch of people I hadn't met before and sharing our experiences at the moment with all our challenges around the pandemic and everything else that's going on prior to that and what we've got to look forward to in the future. So it's really good. We have an amazing bunch of people in our industry and it's a great opportunity to share. So thank you, Charlene, and thank you to everybody who's been involved in this show. I should just correct a couple of little things. I don't have factories now, but I've run 2 factories in the UK, one of which we set up from scratch. And I've had 3 stores in the UK. They've all been monobrand stores, so they've all been stores just for our own collections. But I don't run those anymore. But those of you who are in retail or thinking about going into retail or thinking about moving more independent, this is for you. And this is a collection of my experiences, some of which you'll agree with, some of which you'll absolutely hate. And I'm sure I'll get lots of questions afterwards, so you're very welcome to do that. But I want to start talking about the things that make a good independent, how to be an independent. I love the independent sector. It's the most interesting sector of what we do, but it's challenging. There are lots of easy routes to take, or routes that people consider to be easy. That's not where I wanted to go. And I don't think that's where you want to go, which is why you're listening to this now. But I think what we really ought to do is start with some definitions, because when I look at the conversations that we have around the forums, when we start asking each other questions, some of the things that we talk about that are absolutely key to our industry and absolutely key to the decisions we make, sometimes they just don't seem clear. And I think we really need to be clear about them, so that we understand what's going on. Just simply, what is an independent? What do we mean by an independent store? And there are lots of different answers. So I'm going to give my feeling about this, my answer about it. But I like to equate it to our audiences, and I like to equate it to other industries. I think that an independent store is a store that has its own personality, its own unique brand, essence, but it's something that won't be pushed around, that won't be told what to do. So that often stems from the people who supply the store. So, for example, if you're carrying big names, brand names, often those companies want to tell you how you should run your business, which lenses you should sell, which brands you should sell. Let's imagine, for example, that you want to carry, I don't know, one of the big brands, Ray-Ban, and another brand will tell you, the people that sell you Ray-Ban, we know who they are, will tell you that you have to carry something else if you're going to be able to have that access to that brand. If you're independent, no one's going to tell you what to do. You're going to make your own decisions and you're going to stick with them. And I think that's very, very important. It's something to think about. It's not a simple answer. It's what it means to you, but that's what it means to me. And really, really importantly, who is the independent consumer? And I think this is really important. The independent consumer won't be told what to wear. Not by you, not by me, not by all our advertising and marketing, not by the magazines. They make their own decisions. And I think that's really, really important. And what we have to do as independent retailers is listen to them. Try and understand what it is that they want. My job is to sell a product. And when I sell, most of the time I'm listening. It's not about talking, it's about listening. So recognizing who your consumer is really, really important. Another definition that I don't understand. I spend a lot of time wondering why this is a problem. But people don't understand the word luxury, right? What is luxury? What does that mean? I've seen some great surveys on this. American Express did a brilliant survey. If you want to go and look that up on Google, what is luxury? What does luxury mean to you? Luxury to me means something that you don't need to buy, but you choose to buy. And it's not about price. It's not about, it's not about price. It's not about materials. It's not about any single thing. It's about feelings. It's about emotions. It's about when you've bought something, it makes you feel absolutely amazing. You didn't need to buy it. You chose to buy it. And everything about what we do should be luxury. I read that on somebody in the eyewear forum yesterday. I think it was Douglas Reinbold. Forgive me if I've got that wrong, but it was brilliant. Every part of your experience in the store should be high end. And that's everything. Describing things as high end when it's not a product is fantastic. So the whole experience should be high end luxury. What is high end? High end means you're treated like a king or a queen. And that's it. That's all it means. It's nothing to do with price. It's to do with experience. And everything today is about experience. So I'd like to talk about two things, really. To be a successful independent store, I think there are two approaches that we have to look at. One of them is consumer behavior. And wow, that's changing. And that's changing super fast. And the second one is how we behave and what we control. So let's just talk about the consumer, because this is a really strange time. I'm not going to get any arguments on that one, am I? It's a really, really strange time. Consumers are behaving differently. They're behaving differently all over the world. So, I know a lot of the audience today are from America and Canada. And the difference between the West Coast behavior and the East Coast behavior and Midwest, it's enormous. And I recognize that. So we've got a really varied audience. In the UK, we're still on lockdown. And people have been shopping for the last 12 months from their sofas. And it takes a lot to get somebody off their sofa. They're nervous. They don't want to interact with people. I don't really mind what people are telling you, but a lot of people just will avoid the shops if they can. But they've got money because they haven't been spending it. Now, again, not everybody's got money at the moment, but a lot of our audience, the independent audience, has got money. And they're the people that we're focusing on here, because if you're going to be successful, they're the people that need to be interacting with you. So how do you get them off their sofa? Well, the way that they shop, the way that people shop now, is really different to the way they shopped 18 months ago. Because if you're in a town with, let's say, 3 great independent optical stores and a whole bunch of other stores as well, consumer used to think, all right, you know what, I'm going to go around, I'm going to have a little look here, I'll have a look there, I'll see who's got the best prices, I'll see who's got the best products, I'll see who I enjoy their company the most. And I don't think people want to do that at the moment. I don't. So me as a consumer, I mean, I love going out buying clothes. I'm going to sit at home. I'm going to get on my laptop and I'm going to play and I'm going to look for what I want. And when I find what I want, I'm going to try and find something better. I want to be in charge of the process as a consumer. I'm not being dictated to, especially the independent consumer. I'm not going to be dictated to by the stores or anybody or any of the brands that are advertising or the people getting my face in Facebook. Not interested. It's me. So if you're going to get me off my sofa, if you're going to get me into your store, you need to have something exceptional, something different. So ask yourselves now, if you've got a store, you've got an independent store, or you want to have an independent store, you want to become independent in the way that you do business, what have you got that is so good that I'm going to say to myself, all right, I'm prepared to take this risk. I don't really go out very much, but that looks worth finding. You've got to have something special. Now, most of you who are listening to this will have a whole stack of tortoiseshell frames on your shelves and a whole stack of black frames on your shelves. And that's great because, yeah, people are buying them. But is somebody going to go now, get off their sofa and come into your store and spend $1,000 because you've inspired them with a tortoiseshell frame? I don't think so. Maybe, but maybe not many. And I think that's the issue here. I think that we have to have something really, really special, a unique personality about your store that drives people in. And that uniqueness, that is very much part of the independent conversation. There are lots of different ways of doing that. But consumers are different now. They want to be part of the process. They want to feel that they've democratized the way that you sell and the way that they buy. So I think that's a really interesting way of looking at things. And I think, have you got something different? It might be independent brands. It might be in the service. It might be in the environment that you have. But have you got something different that drives people into your store? Let's just think about this. The sale starts long, long before you get to see your client. I mean, it's mind-boggling how much it's changed and how much the pandemic has accelerated this change. Your client, and in fact, more importantly than that, the person who is not your client, the person who is looking to buy things but hasn't bought yet, is out looking for glasses, right? They're looking for glasses, or they might not even be looking for glasses, but they might come across your store, your products, and be inspired and excited, and you're going to make them go. What about those people that go online and look at your social presence? Well, let's assume you've got a social presence. You know, today we can't survive without having great social media, great website. And I'm using the word great and I'm making assumptions. Have a look at your websites. Have a look at your websites now and ask yourselves, is this inspiring? Does it instill me with confidence? Do I think that this store has gone to a lot of trouble to produce a beautiful website that reflects the service that I'm going to get when I come in and see them? Because some homemade crappy little website reflects badly on your store. And I'm sorry, but if I'm a consumer and I'm looking at something that's been cobbled together by somebody's cousin, it's not enough because I can very easily vote with my feet. I'm just off. I'm just going to go and look somewhere else and I'm going to go and find that beautiful store that's got lovely pictures of what they do, who they are, makes you feel really excited, makes you relate to them. You know, are they my kind of people? Do I see myself in that store? Do I see myself in the people that are working there? And I'm going to go. So your whole presence online, it's your store. That's more than your store. We have to start like that. It's not the same for everybody. I recognize that. But there's an atmosphere of diffidence. People are nervous. So you have to give them, in summary, a really good reason to get off their sofa. And I know that some people are shopping for price. Of course they are. But some people are, shopping for contact lenses. It's not all about product. It's not all about showing people bright orange frames. I know that. But they need to see something show-stopping. Now let's just think about this, right? Okay, I'm going to grab a product. The products that you carry in your store, and we're going to come back to products a little bit later on, are probably the thing that makes most people interested in what's going on. As a consumer, it's like they'll come to you for their lenses. Of course, they have to. You're an optician. That's great. They'll accept your advice. But they don't have to go to you for their frames. And we've got lots of competition, haven't we? We've got lots of competition for frames. I mean, you've got other opticians there. There's the whole online thing going on. People are marketing this idea that you could buy frames online, and why not? Consumers expect that. Consumers expect a brand to be, let's just use the word modern. They expect the brand to be up to date. All right, so you're competing with that. It's not better or worse than what you're doing. It's a different offer to the consumer. But let's think about trust, right? Because I do a lot of work in France. The French opticians for a long time really struggled with the press attacking them about price and saying they were overcharging. It was a real issue. And we know that all over the world, the people that write about the optical industry don't necessarily understand the optical industry. So they're giving us all bad press about prices, about margins, everything else. Now, if you're carrying frames in your store that you can buy anywhere, right? Let's talk about Tom Ford. Okay. Am I going to get in trouble? Let's talk about Tom Ford, right? Let's say you're carrying Tom Ford in your store. Now, okay, I know that lots of people want to carry Tom Ford or Ray-Ban or those brands because they say, yeah, lots of people buy them from us. That's a big source of revenue for me. It's the people that don't buy from you that you've got to think about, okay? Because they're your future. The people that are looking online for Tom Ford, I can guarantee you, we've all had people come into our store with a phone, look at a price. Oh, look, I can buy it cheaper online. If you've got those brands that people can buy anywhere, buy online, they're going to stop, right? Their customer journey with you is going to stop at home on the laptop, and they're going to buy it somewhere else. So you need to give them something, I don't know, by coincidence, here's a frame I prepared earlier. You need to show them something different, something that they can't find everywhere, something that they need to come to you for. That's what makes all the difference. That's what makes you independent. So thinking about your products is going to be really, really important. But what can we do to make our stores really, really successful as independents? I think, now, I've got a little confession to make. I wrote this this presentation about 2 weeks ago. And in the meantime, I went to a seminar about consumer behavior. And it completely threw everything that I thought about what's going on. Consumers are behaving in a wild, completely different way. Thank goodness not all consumers are behaving in a wild and different way at the moment. Some of them are still behaving the way we expect them to do. But I think there are some things that we can do that are consistent with what was happening before and will be consistent after the pandemic slows down. I think the most important and valuable message that I can give here is that you need to have a really clear and consistent message about what your store is. Now, let's have a moment to think about that. What do you represent? There's no, for me, there are lots of brilliant stores all over the world, right? And they look different. The people are different. They offer different things. There are some stores that are really, really community-based, like for their own environment, for the small district quarter where they live, and just for the local people. And it's really, really targeted at them. And there are other stores that try and drive an audience from hundreds of miles. I mean, I've seen stores, and I know for definite that people drive hundreds of miles when they need glasses regularly to come and see these people. I'm going to show you a couple of stores well, let's start with one store here that has the most incredible personality. It has a clear and consistent message. So before you go in the store, you understand what the message is about, because you've seen it online and you've thought, yeah, this is really, really good. When you, let me just find this baby here. Okay. When you enter the store, it's consistent and you're in no doubt that you are in a most fantastic place. This is Buk Optique in Stavanger in Norway. It's artistic, it's quirky. Every room is decorated by a local artist who is absolutely astonishing. And his work, his name's Randy, Randy's work is related to the oil industry in the area. So it's community, it's local understanding, it's artistic, it's creative. And the way that Hans Christian Buch curates the store is that he only carries a few brands and he lives the story of those brands. So when his consumers come into the store, they're immersed in an experience which is unequivocal. There's no question at all what you're getting when you go to Buk Optique. Now, I can tell you as well that there are other great stores in Stavanger, each with their own personality, each do things really, really well. But as a consumer now, I don't think that I would be going to 3-4 stores in a city to try and find the place that gives me something special. I'm going to look online and I'm going to find the personality of the store, and then I'm going to go there. And I'm going to make a decision, and I've made a decision. And then it needs to be absolutely consistent. And everything about you, who you are, what you do, needs to be on message, because otherwise the consumer won't trust you. And let's go back to that trust thing for a second. We talked about trust. If a consumer's looking for something online, they come across you, they find what you do, and they find it cheaper online, they are never going to trust you with anything, ever. That's it, done. Even if they come, and if you get past that and they don't find that product online, but they come to you and they buy it from you, and then afterwards, because you're maintaining the relationship with them, afterwards they find that they could have bought it from someone else cheaper, they're never coming back. And it's the lifetime value of the customer is the thing that's going to make you successful as a business. It's not the one-off sale. Now, those things are really, really important to remember. It's just that it's 360. Now, there's nowhere to hide. Consumers can see everything about you. They can find out everything about you online. Reviews are an obvious thing that you've got to work on and think about, and very, very important. But they can find out so much about you. So you can't, there's no cheating. There's no corner cutting. It's got to be done properly if you're going to be a successful independent. So online is your shop, whether you sell online or not. Whether you sell your products online, it's your shop window. Okay, people come to your website and they get a feeling for you straight away. Don't cut corners. Don't do a half-assed website. Do it properly. Instagram. Now, okay, today's a little bit different, but many people still struggle with social media. It's not necessarily, there's nothing wrong with struggling with social media. There's no assumption that you should be able to do it. Find yourselves a 12-year-old who can do it. All right, it's not that hard. Find somebody, because you have to be on Instagram. Creating content. Well, okay, there are tons of brands like Kirk and Kirk, like all the great brands that that you deal with. And in fact, even all the poor brands that you come across as well, they all work hard to provide content, because we want to help you communicate and grow your audience. If you're successful, we're successful. And this is a community. This is something that I talked at the beginning about, galvanizing all the independent people together, all the different strands of independence. We work together. You can't not be present on Instagram. You can't have a tiny following on Instagram. Get someone to help you. It doesn't matter. There are lots of things that I'm not good at. I'm very lucky. I get people around me who are good at it, and you need to do that. Pay someone to manage it for you and build a genuine following. Do not, under any circumstances, buy followers. That is horrible, and it's obvious when it happens. Your feed on Instagram, on the other social channels, expresses exactly who you are. Everything that your customer sees about you online contributes to the opinion that they form. Reviews are important, but it's not just about reviews. So let's just say that the people have got past the social, they've seen your website, they think you look great, you build a good website, that's nice work. They've made a decision, they're getting off their sofa, they're going to come to your store. That's a big commitment. They've probably made an appointment. You've probably decided already that you're going to spend more time with them than you used to spend with people. And we're all seeing how that pays off. I'm assuming that you know the sort of figures that are happening. I can tell you in the UK, since the pandemic, the average basket in the UK has gone up, with independent stores, has gone up 20%. So opticians who were frightened of dedicating more expensive time to customers are now loving spending time because the customer appreciates it, they appreciate the expertise, they appreciate the advice, and they spend more money. So that is something that is extremely interesting and important. If you drive people to your door, right, when they get to your door, it's got to look absolutely amazing, hasn't it? I mean, otherwise it doesn't live up to what's happening on social media. You can't cut corners. You know, we don't need... Do you know what Blue Peter is? Do you guys know what... We used to have a program called Blue Peter in England, and all the kids used to make like little models out of old toilet roll cartons and washing up liquid bottles and things. Please don't do a Blue Peter window, all right? Spend some money. The people who've got off their sofa and are prepared to come to your store and giving you their time, they want to feel that this is the most amazing experience. Now, here's a lovely store. This is a window that I saw. I don't work with these guys, but I have a lot of respect for them. I think it's a really beautiful store. Let's get this. This is a store in Chicago. It's called Lab Rabbit Optics. And when you arrive outside, or when I arrived outside the store, I just thought, this place is great. I am going to have a fantastic experience when I go in there. You know, it doesn't need to be all bells and whistles, but look at it. There are plants, there are kind of scientific artifacts, there are skulls in there, there are all sorts of stuff. Lab Rabbit, even the name's great. It tells you something about the store. So please, 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 spend some time on your windows, spend some time on the way that your store looks from the outside, because it's just as important as the way that your store looks from the inside. Shop fitting is a huge challenge, right? If you're an independent, you need to look different to the competition. You need to look independent of your competition. And how do you do that? You know, there are lots of ways. When we opened our third shop in London on Conduit Street, I took a really great shop designer who had never, ever done optical before. And I think that can be a really interesting approach. It's not necessarily the right approach. But I sent him off to go and look at the kind of Optical Express and Vision Express and all those kind of stores of the day. A typical optician, I said, go and make notes, tell me what you find. And he came back with a list of characteristics of those opticians. And I said, right, here's your brief. Your brief is that if any one of those characteristics appears in my store, you're not getting paid. And we ended up with a store that was massively different to anything else that was out there. And it appealed to some people, it didn't appeal to other people. But what it did was it gave us a very distinct and clear personality, which our audience understood. And they made a decision based on that personality, whether it fitted them. So your shop fit says who you are and who you compete with. It says who you're not. And if you look like a chain store, that's how people are going to measure you. They're going to measure you against chain stores. So the questions that they ask you are going to be about price. They're going to be about, they're just going to be like cheap questions. It's not going to be classy. It's not going to be an amazing experience. You know, do you want racks? Do you want shelves? Do you want something completely different? Because you can have it. You don't have to follow the rules that we followed up until this day. What about lighting? Lighting is so important. It changes everything. But, you know, frankly, I'm the first person who didn't have any sense of lighting until I started working with lighting designers. I mean, you know, there's so much that we don't know, but it's massively, massively important. These are things that we don't talk about all that much when we're talking about optics, but it's massive. Think about what your customer feels. Think about what they experience in your store. So here's another one, right? Branded, be careful how I say this, branded cabinets. Why not? Let's just say it straight out, all right? We've all seen those 1970s and 80s cabinets with a brand. They've got their name on the top of it. They want you to fill that cabinet with their brand, with their products. Have a look at the great stores that you and I both know. All right. So I'll just give you some names of people that you'll recognise. Yeah, look at Salima's store in New York. Look at Julia Gagosha in LA. Look at D-Vision in Chicago. All these fantastic stores. Look at Edward Byner's stores. These people present products in their own personality. They spend a fortune and they think for a long, long time on how their stores look. Now, if I have spent all that time and money designing my store, I don't want you coming in with a cabinet, and I don't expect you to put a cabinet with Kirk and Kirk written on it, because you may not always carry Kirk and Kirk and it may not fit in. If I make a cabinet out of wood and you've designed your whole store out of metal, really? It just doesn't fit. The way your store looks needs to reflect your attitude and the experience that your customer will have when they come in. Not the brands. It's you. It's all about you. Okay, so far? This is really funny. I can't see anybody. Let's talk about product, all right? So this is obvious, but it's independent brands. And then you got to ask yourself what independent brands are. I saw somebody talking the other day about custom eyewear. Somebody was looking for a brand of custom eyewear. So for me, custom-made eyewear is eyewear that is made for the individual person to suit that individual person as a one-off piece, right? And then I saw people saying, my brand's custom-made. What does that mean? Really? Seriously? Let's think about this, all right? Independent brands with their own personality that do a particular job, right? It's not obvious and it's not easy. Okay, so no one says it is. I'm not telling you it's easy. There are lots of good people out there that can help you. Do not be shy, because people like me love helping stores do well. Well, I love it. I work with and help informally stores that don't carry our product, because I think it's interesting, and I think if our industry does well, we do well, everybody does well. So talk to people. There's also lots of really poor advice out there. So don't be afraid to walk away from advice that doesn't feel right. If you're not feeling it, it's not right. If it doesn't feel right, it won't feel right to you, and it won't feel right to your clients. You can't be someone that you're not. The most dangerous situation, I think, for a store is when you're doing okay. You're making a bit of profit, you're not threatened, it's not hard, and it's really quite hard to change what you're doing. But the world is moving really, really quickly, and if you don't move forward, by definition, you get overtaken. So even if you're doing okay, even if you're doing quite well, think about change. Think about change all the time. Think about improvement. Think about how your customer is behaving, what they want. An independent store, just like an independent person, as I said before, will not be told what to wear. You will not be told what brands to carry. It's not my job, just like it's not the job of any brand, to tell you what to carry. So if you're lucky enough to be the only non-chain optical in town, you got a head start. Most people have competition, right? And this is really important. There are I come across places where people are quite almost complacent because they're the only player in town. They're the only independent. And if you go down the road, you've got Specsavers, but that doesn't bother you. Fine. Next month, you might not be the only player in town. You have to up your game constantly. Most people have competition in town. If you don't today, you will in a few months. You need to give people a reason to come to your store and not visit your competition. And generally speaking, the thing that customers, clients, patients, whatever you want to call them, what they relate to is the product. It's the frames, because that's what can drive them in. If you're selling tons of Ray-Bans, it's hard to stop, isn't it? It's really hard to stop. Some decisions are going to be difficult, but you have to ask yourself about the people who are buying from your store and the people who are not buying from your store and how to win their hearts, right? Like I said before, Ray-Ban, you're competing with online. You're going to lose people's confidence quickly. And I know that a lot of people wanted to come to this presentation today because it's really difficult when you're a Luxottica type store to move away from that. And you might be doing quite well, but maybe you see the future differently. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to carry on, and that's fine, and I respect that. I don't tell anybody how they should be running or changing their business. But if you do want to change, it's a difficult thing to do. But you bite the bullet and do it wholeheartedly. Don't do it halfway. I had a really good story with a guy who had a store in Italy, and it was exactly that. He was in Milan. He had a really lovely store. It was local. It was a real community feel, and everybody, like his dad had the store before, and for generations people were coming in and buying glasses from him. And he just sold tons of Ray-Bans. And he just said to me, like, I'm bored. I feel threatened. I feel like it's going to change. I don't really want to sell Ray-Bans anymore, but I don't think I can stop. I went into his shop and it was full of Ray-Bans and very little else. And I said to him, right, we'll try something. Okay, we're going to put in some other brands, and we put in some independent brands, and we're going to have a tiny little display of Ray-Ban with a logo in a corner so that people know that you've got it. And he didn't actually lose much of his sales. He didn't lose many of those people that were coming in to buy Ray-Ban, because what they did, they would come in and they go, oh, have you got this particular frame Ray-Ban? I've seen it in a magazine. He'd go, yeah, and he'd go out the back and he'd pull it out and they go, there you go, here's your €200 or whatever it is. You can carry on if you want. Now, I'm telling you that I don't think you should, but it worked for him. If you find it hard to let go, there are degrees where you can do it. This is not black and white. But don't mix your message. I really don't believe, and I know there are some great stores out there that are going to argue with me, but I really don't believe that the audience for a Gucci is the same as the audience for a Teo. I don't think people mix it up that much. There are exceptions, and I can hear you shouting. I can hear some of you shouting, yeah, I've got both in my store and I do really well. That's great. And it works for some people. That's fine. I think it's a mixed message. I think when you're preaching independent to an audience and you're saying, I go around the world to these trade shows, I find you the best brands that you can find anywhere that you wouldn't have found without me. It's hard to say, well, actually, I've also got a bit of Gucci over here in the corner, and if you want that, that's fine. I know everybody else has got it, but yeah, that's okay. Plenty of stores mix it up and do really well, but if you're trying to move into the independent sector, if you're trying to say you're independent, be unequivocal. Be straight down the line. Be confident. Your frame selection is everything, but you need to make money too, and I respect that. You need tortoiseshell frames. You need black frames. But you don't need to fill your store with 100 different micro variations of a tortoiseshell panto. Please. You can probably have 6 tortoiseshell frames and cover everything you need to cover. That leaves you with so much space that you can do beautiful, interesting things. You're not going to lose the tortoiseshell customer by doing that, but you are going to attract more interesting customers who are prepared to spend more money. You're wasting shelf space if you do that. Of course you don't want to lose a sale, but you want to offer the client the chance to express themselves, because that's what people want now. They're at home, they're on their own, they're not mixing, they want to get out, they want to express themselves, and it's hard to do that. How do you do that? People are spending money, this blew my mind. People are spending money buying clothing for their avatars and spending a fortune. They think it makes them different. I guess I'm too old to understand it, but that is what is happening. People are living a virtual life. They want to express themselves. And successful independents allow customers to express themselves. Look at the best independent stores. Look at their social feeds. They celebrate their customers. They don't celebrate themselves. This is not about us. This is not about us shopkeepers. This is about the customer. Independent is all about the customer. All in. All in. Look at the different market sectors you want to attract and find a brand that works for them. All right, so I want this brand for middle-aged women. I want this brand for guys 30 to 35. I want this brand for my financial community. Whatever it is, go deep into that brand. You don't need many brands to cover your audience. Go deep into that brand Learn their story, love their story, communicate their story, because that's what your audience wants to know. Your audience wants to know that you're all in, that you believe in what you're offering them. They want to share it with you. An independent brand implies quality. This is one of the, this is a real conundrum for me as well. I've never understood how some stores choose to sell certain brands which conflict with what they stand for. Right? If you're saying we're all about quality, don't compromise. Right? Don't have cheap brands in there because people come in and I don't want to lose the sale. That's rubbish. If that happens, you've got the wrong people coming in. You don't want that audience. You want to attract people because you have got something amazing, and they know that every time they come to your store, you're not going to palm them off with some rubbish just so you can get some money out of their pockets. Try to look objectively at a frame. Does it look well made? I don't care whether you like the rep. Does it look well made? Is it substantial? Does the material look and feel expensive? Objectively, does it look and feel expensive? Be honest with yourself. Be really honest. And if you're not sure, that's okay. Ask some other people. But you don't want anything where somebody else is going to come in, look at a frame and say to themselves, it doesn't feel like $500 worth of frame. And then they don't tell you and they leave and they say, yeah, I'll go think about it and talk to my wife. Thanks very much. Bye. You never see them again. Okay. Everything, all in, 100%. I'm not a frame snob. Okay. I recognize that different audiences have different budgets, but as an independent store, you need to choose your target audience and serve them. There is nothing wrong with having frames that are inexpensive, that are made to fit a certain budget, and that is totally right for that right audience. And if that's the audience that you choose to target, that's absolutely fine. That's perfect. Serve that audience, but serve them well. Give them the best that you can give them in every way. If your brand message is about community, then find the right products for your community. You are the expert. They'll buy what you show them and explain to them is the best option. If they do that and they leave with something which isn't great, they won't come back again. Where the frame is made does not mean that it's good or bad. There are beautiful frames made in China, just like there's crap made in France. Okay, let's not get, and this is an extension of that labels thing, right? Let's not get hung up about labels, right? Generally speaking, yes, made in France is a sign of great quality, right? But look at the frame. Don't just go, oh, it's made in France. It's fantastic. Look at it. Check it out. My frames are made in France. I know the factory where they're made inside out. I've been working with them for a long time, and I work there because it's brilliant. Had I found a brilliant factory somewhere else in the world, I would have worked there. It's not a problem. But look at the frame. Price is an indicator. It's only an indicator. High end means one thing to someone, but something completely different to someone else. Nevertheless, there are certain realities. I mean, let's be honest about it. You can't hand make a quality frame below a certain price. Let's think about it. Okay? Think about the price. Let's forget the retail. Let's think about the wholesale price, the price that you pay for a frame, the optician. Think about how much the frame maker is marking it up. Is there a distributor involved as well? And then think about how much they're buying it from the factory for. And ask yourself whether it really is what it says on the label. Just takes a moment to think about it. Because there is a certain price below which you cannot buy a handmade frame. Think about what handmade frame means. It means that it's not just chucked out of a machine. It's not injection molded. People bandy these words around. This is handmade. This is luxury. Think about what handmade. If you're in any doubt, look at another product. Look at something outside of optics and ask yourself what handmade means to you about leather, for example, and you'll get it. So how do you find great independent product? Well, that's the golden question, isn't it? Trade shows are a good place to start, but when are we going to have a real trade show? Seriously, I'm not going to get involved in the whole trade show conversation right now because it makes me quite upset. Okay, but I don't think that my personal opinion is that this year it's going to be very, very difficult to even consider traveling. And if actual physical trade shows do happen this year, will the brands go? I don't know. I can't tell you about us for certain yet. I doubt very much that we'll go to any trade shows. Will the audience go? Will the opticians go? I don't know. People I speak to, mixed opinions. Well, it's an expensive process, so it has to work for everybody. So if they come back, trade shows are a great place to start. But go online. Look at great independent optical stores. Some of the guys that I've mentioned, for example, but there are loads of them. Look at those stores and look at what lines they carry. Don't copy them. Just get ideas and tips. Have a look at a store that you think is really great and look at the 6, 8, 10 brands that they carry and look at what they're trying to do with those brands. Don't say, well, I'm going to carry those brands. Look at what they're doing with those brands, who they're targeting, what they're trying to achieve. And that will help you because you can do the same thing. But speak to people on forums, listen to people. Don't take their advice blind. Because I know every time you put something on Luxury Eyewear Forum and say, well, I'm looking for a brand that sells at $500, every rep in the world comes up and says, oh, you should try my brand. It's brilliant. Here I am. Oh, and I'm the rep. Make your own decisions. That's what being important is all about. But phone stores, phone people like me. I mean, I recommend other brands all day long. If our brand isn't right for you, I'll tell you other brands are. Phone stores, independent people love helping each other. I just hear so many conversations about, I know this guy who's setting up a store in Delaware and he didn't really know where to get this, that, and the other, and I helped him. And we love helping each other. This is family. This is great. It's a community. Don't phone the guy down the street 100 yards from where you're opening because he probably won't want to help you too much. But you can phone other people across the US, or you can phone people around the world. This is a community. There are some visible brands. Some obvious ones. Annie Valentine's brilliant. Teo is brilliant. Kubaram's brilliant. I think Kirk isn't bad either. But there are some brands that meet a certain demand. And you have to understand what your demand is before you choose those brands. Don't start with the brands and then think, how can I fit everything around it? You're looking for beautiful wooden frames? Feb 31st. There are people that do things. There's Rolf. There are lots of other people. There are lots of small, independent, interesting brands. Lucas de Stael. Leisure Society. I mean, there are tons. And so you've got choice. It doesn't have to be obvious. Research. Go and do your research and talk to each other. Often you can't have a brand because someone else in your neighborhood has it. No problem. Find something else that expresses who you are. There's no need to get stuck or upset. There are choices. My strong advice is don't mix it up. Take the brave step of losing all of those name brands, lose them, and focus on 6 to 8 independent brands that give a strong, clear message to your customers. A really clear message about what's going to happen when they come to you. So I'm going to just round this up with a few quick touches. This isn't really my area. I'm not an optician. Lenses. It's not my forte, but it comes back to trust, right? Your customer has to trust you on lenses. And this is the thing, right? They probably do. Just simple, straight up. If you give them advice, they don't really know anything about lenses generally, unless they've got particular experience themselves. But you need to offer them lenses that reflect the quality of everything else that you do. You can be independent with your lenses too, right? There are options. Don't be swayed. I'm going to say this. I'm going to enjoy saying this. Don't be swayed by the bulk discounts, right? Just don't. You are qualified, intelligent, great people. Give someone the best lens that suits their prescription, that suits their frame. I don't need to say it to you, but it doesn't have to be about a brand. It really doesn't need to be about a brand. There are lots of choices. Make those choices and keep yourself independent. Don't be bullied. Spend time with your customers. I talked about the average basket increasing by 20% in the UK. Independent stores do well when they practice what they preach. At the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was nervous about how that could work. But spending time explaining the benefits of quality product has worked wonders, and it's been a major success for everybody. Remember, most people are going out far less. They have a little bit more money to treat themselves, and they want to do it right. I personally, as a consumer, I'm buying far fewer things, but I'm buying better things. And that's our opportunity in independent. Team. Let's talk about team. Briefly, I'm running out of time. I can't believe I've been talking for this long. I thank you very much for listening this way through. Your team does not need to look any way or dress any way. You shouldn't, none of us should be snobbish or judgmental about the people that are working in the store. But they do need to listen. Right? This is really, really important. This is something that I come across a lot in stores. A customer walks into a store and straight away the team just wants to show them what they got because they're proud of it, which is fantastic. But actually, listen, ask questions. People working in the store, they need to inspire confidence. They need to work out what it is that the customer wants by asking the right questions. If we work on the basis that our clients are independent spirits, they're individuals, then we cannot hope to second guess what they're looking for. We have to ask. We need to ask questions, listen to the answers. We need to listen to what the client says. And most importantly, we need to listen to what they don't say. How you and your team behave towards your client will dictate the confidence that they have in you. They need to feel that you understand them and can guide them in their decision. Now, this is something that I think is really, really important. Do you wear a lab coat in your store? Okay, some of you do, some of you don't. There's nothing wrong with it. But a lab coat says to me, scientist, it says someone who's going to give me advice that I can trust on my lenses. But it doesn't say to me someone who's styling advice I'm going to trust. All right, so independent stores, people working there, people with an independent individual style. You don't have to look a certain way. You just have to be individual, independent. That's my feeling on that. And I think it takes, there's a value in a wealth of diversity of people, of looks, of everything. And just listen to your community and reflect what your community is and what they want. So, after your customer has left, right, they just had a great time with you, they spent a load of money with you, they bought 3 frames, they bought varifocals for every frame and some contact lenses for the weekend or whatever it is that they want for when they're playing footy. The sale starts long before they come to your store, but it continues long after they leave. Online brands measure the long-term value of a customer. Now, I don't just mean optical brands. I mean everything, clothing brands. You measure the long-term value of a customer. An online store or a physical store is absolutely no different. There are the obvious things, like they might leave a review after they've left your store. They'll tell their friends about their experience. They'll be an ambassador for your store. More importantly, they'll walk around wearing beautiful glasses and people will stop them in the street or they'll tell people about that experience. I mean, you know, people, I see stuff, I guess because of what I'm doing, I see stuff all the time where somebody has gone out of their way to praise an experience they've had with a brand or with a store. And there are the less obvious things. If they've connected with you, they will connect with you. They will connect with your social media and your store after and possibly get involved. They might post pictures of themselves. They'll provide you with content, but they'll be ambassadors for you. And they'll hashtag you, you know, it's like, it's going to help. They might be hungry for their next pair. But maintain the relationship. Drop them a line after a few weeks. Drop them a phone call, a mail, a text, however you feel comfortable talking to them. See how they're getting on. Send them an offer. Even send them a gift after 6 months. A regular client is the golden fleece. So let's bring this full circle. Much of what I've talked about today is applicable to any business at all. But as an independent, you need to stand out. You need to do things differently. You need to do it your way. And you need to do it better than everybody else. You're small. You're on your own. You've got people biting at your heels. You need to do it better. And you can. It's hard work, but it's really rewarding. And one of the things, I mean, I've been, as Charlene said, I've been doing this since 1992. So it's nearly 30 years I've been doing this. One of the most valuable things that I've learned through that 20-something, I'm going to say 20-something rather than 30 years, is the stuff that I can't do. And I've learned to just get people in to help. It works. You know, if my business needs this to get better, Let me get someone else to help me, and my business will get better. It will cost me some money, but there will be a reward for it. Work hard, it's really rewarding. You won't create excited brand ambassadors by turning up to work in your grandma's cardi, all right? Showing a bunch of tortoiseshell frames on racks. Please, white lab coats do not shout style. They reassure, perhaps, on a medical level, but the team that is styling the customer needs to have style, even if, especially if, it's a very personal style. You spend all that money making your store look beautiful, you buy all these beautiful frames. You don't need beautiful people, that's not what I'm saying. You need interesting people that are interested. Being an independent eyewear store is magical. We get to sell products that we love to a group of absolutely fascinating, interesting people whose company we enjoy. I mean, how many of us are friends with our clients? I know I am. If you take one thing away from this talk, I hope it's this. Being an independent requires absolute commitment. You cannot do it halfway. All in or nothing. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
That was incredible. I am so excited that we got to host such a great, very engaging, you unpacked a lot in an hour. I'm sure people who are watching this now, we even have people on Facebook are giving us thumbs up. You got tons of love going on here. I just want to kind of revisit the chat. You had a lot of comments and questions here. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. I know you were like
super focused, I'm sorry, I was so busy babbling. I could see there were comments
going. No. You were in the zone. I didn't want to, I mean, it was great, but I know there was a lot of, not necessarily questions, but a lot of comments here. I just wanted to make sure, does anybody have any questions for Jason? Definitely. My favorite part about what you said, Jason, is you said, it doesn't matter if they're a customer of yours, you'll help them anyway. Yeah. And I think that, you know, Ryan and I do a lot that isn't as self-serving as people might think, because we do a lot. We have a lot of businesses that we're involved in, but sometimes people just say, why do you do this? And we're like, we try to explain them, okay, there's a purpose behind it. They're like, but why? They don't, that's not enough for them. And it's like, can it just be because we have a passion for this? And like, we understand that somebody is like right there, that little nudge is going to help them. I mean, can't you just do it because you want to help people? Like, does everything have to have such a self-serving reason? So I love that. Mark says he loved it. So he says, thank you from Matador Eyeworks.
Thank you. I've got a question from Perry
Brillish joined us. He said, go ahead.
Well, Perry asked, what's a true France certification of quality? And are there any acetate manufacturers in France? Thank you, Perry. So we've got to be, this goes back to something that I was saying before, and we could talk for a long time about this, but it will say made in France, CE, on the frame, if it's been made in France, right? Be really careful, because when a frame is made outside of France or outside of Europe, and it's brought into Europe, law requires that you have to do a certain number of processes to the frame to make it qualify to have the CE mark, which is what suggests that it's been made in Europe. Okay? Doesn't necessarily mean that it's been made in Europe. Now, this is where, and I was imploring you guys before, to really trust your own judgment on a frame, right? This is where you have to look at something. You know, the frames of real quality that have made in France on them, then you can be fairly sure that's made in France, right? You have to be careful when something doesn't specifically say made in France, right? If something says, for example, design somewhere, that's not telling you that it's made in France. Okay, so if I say to you, if I wrote design London on my frames, you would have no idea where those frames were made. It's the made in. And watch out for that, that's a trap. But pick up a frame, look at it, look at the joints, look at the material, look at the acetate. And look at that acetate and say to yourself, does that feel expensive? Does that feel well made? Look at where the joint and the side meets the front, and is it flush? Is it, sorry, you can't see that. Is it plush? Is it You know, when we make a frame in our factory, I'll come back to your other part of your question as well in a second, Perry. Just to point out, our frames are made of acrylic; they're not made of acetate. But the factory that we use takes every individual frame. When a frame is finished, the side is actually finished to the actual front. So you don't just like swap them around, and it doesn't really matter what you do. This frame, this front, and this side were made for each other. That's exceptional. That's real for me. That's a real sign of quality. And when you look at a frame and you see how well they actually close up, well, sorry, how well they actually close up together, that's what a sign is. Now, are there acetate manufacturers in France? Yeah, France is famous for its fantastic acetate manufacture. There's the Jura region, but there are other regions as well. How many there are now, I don't really know, because we just work with one factory. But yes, Perry, I mean, there are great manufacturers over there. And just like every factory, whether it's France or anywhere else, they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. I'm happy if anybody has any questions about, like, we can talk offline, but if anybody has any questions about particular factories that they want to use for a particular project, again, you know, some of them will only work in huge numbers, some of them will only work in certain price points, some of them only do certain things, and then they ship it out to another factory to make another part of the frame, for example. But I hope that answers your question, Perry.
Well, thank you very much. And if anybody has any questions, we'll be meeting with Jason in the Kirk and Kirk booth. Just go to the arena and type in Kirk and Kirk. And Jason, will you be able to take a moment to meet anybody who has any questions with you in your booth?
Oh, with pleasure. I'd love to. Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I see some of you actually stayed.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.